Imagine a country where a child's education was decided by the color of their skin, where school doors opened for some and shut for others, where the law itself protected injustice. This is the true story of Brown versus Board of Education. In the early 1950s, segregation wasn't just a social custom in America, it was the law. Under the doctrine of separate but equal, black and white students were forced into separate schools, separate buses, separate lives. But everyone knew the truth. Those schools were never equal. White schools were often modern, well-funded, with new textbooks and bright classrooms. Black schools were under-resourced, overcrowded, and neglected. In Topeka, Kansas, lived a little girl named Linda Brown. Her father, Oliver Brown, worked as a welder for the Santa Fe Railroad. Every day, Linda had to walk nearly a mile through dangerous railroad yards just to catch a bus that would take her to the black school across town, while a white elementary school stood just 7 blocks from her home. In 1951, Oliver Brown joined 12 other African-American parents, supported by the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. Together, they filed a lawsuit against the Topeka Board of Education, demanding one simple thing: that their children be allowed to attend the neighborhood schools. The legal battle began in a Kansas federal court. During the trial, the parents and expert witnesses testified how segregation damaged black children's sense of self-worth. A famous psychologist, Dr. Kenneth Clark, shared his research known as the doll test. Black children were given dolls, some with white skin, some with brown, and asked which were good and which were bad. Over and over, they identified the white dolls as better. The message was painfully clear. Segregation was poisoning children's minds. Yet the district court ruled against the parents. The judges admitted segregation harmed black children, but claimed they were bound by Plessy versus Ferguson, the 1896 Supreme Court case that had legalized separate but equal. Unwilling to accept defeat, the NAACP appealed the case all the way to the United States Supreme Court. The stakes could not have been higher. In December 1952, the Supreme Court heard arguments from Thurgood Marshall, the brilliant young attorney who would later become the first black Supreme Court justice. Marshall argued that separate schools violated the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. He declared, segregation generates a feeling of inferiority as to their status in the community that may affect their hearts and minds in a way unlikely ever to be undone. But the Supreme Court was deeply divided. The justices deliberated for months. When Chief Justice Fred Vinson died unexpectedly, many feared the case would end at a stalemate. Then, Earl Warren was appointed Chief Justice. Warren believed the court had a moral duty to set the nation on a path toward justice. He worked tirelessly to build consensus. Finally, on May 17, 1954, the Supreme Court delivered its unanimous decision. Chief Justice Warren read the opinion. We conclude that in the field of public education, the doctrine of separate but equal has no place. Separate educational facilities are inherently unequal. In one sentence, 58 years of legalized segregation crumbled. The decision sent shockwaves across America. Some communities resisted, closing schools or threatening violence. Others began the slow, painful work of integrating classrooms. But Brown versus Board ignited a movement that would become the Civil Rights Revolution. It inspired Rosa Parks to refuse her bus seat, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. to march, and countless ordinary people to stand up for their dignity. Linda Brown was just a child who wanted to go to her neighbor school, but her courage and her father's determination transformed the nation. To this day, Brown versus Board of Education reminds us, justice is never inevitable. It must be demanded, fought for, and defended.